What really happened during Kim Taehyung's latest live at the airport? Why did fans around the world suddenly burst into tears and flood the internet with emotional messages? Don't scroll, because this might be the most heartfelt moment you'll ever witness. Watch, feel, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you believe that even silence can speak louder than words. It began like a whisper that grew into a roar. The kind of moment that only Kim Taehyung, better known as V of BTS, could create without even trying. The sun was barely rising above the horizon when the first shaky live stream notification appeared. Taehyung is live. Within seconds, thousands of fans around the world froze in place. Whether in Seoul, Paris, New York, or Jakarta, phones lit up with the same glowing name. It wasn't just another celebrity live. It was him, standing at the airport, returning home to Korea after a whirlwind of fashion, fame, and emotional encounters that seemed to change something inside him. But what was it about this live that made the air feel heavy, like something unsaid lingered between his words and the silence that followed? The camera wobbled for a moment, and then his face appeared, soft, quiet, yet carrying that unmistakable gravity that always made people pause. He wasn't dressed for attention. A simple black cap, an oversized jacket, and that effortless aura that somehow still outshined the flashing cameras around him. "I just wanted to talk for a bit," he said, his voice low but sincere. The chat section exploded instantly, hearts, tears, questions. "Are you okay? Did something happen? You look tired but beautiful." But Taehyung just smiled, that familiar, wistful curve of his lips that always carried more emotion than words ever could. The airport behind him buzzed with distant noise, fans whispering, reporters keeping their distance, airport staff pretending not to stare. Yet, amidst all of that chaos, Taehyung stood still, calm, composed, almost like he was savoring a quiet victory or saying goodbye to something invisible. The comments scrolled endlessly, yet his gaze occasionally drifted, not to the camera, but to somewhere far beyond. The silence between his sentences spoke of exhaustion, nostalgia, maybe even relief. And then, out of nowhere, he laughed. A soft, genuine laugh that felt like a ray of sunlight breaking through a cloudy day. "You know," he said, "coming back home always feels strange. Like I leave a version of myself somewhere else every time." The internet froze again. He wasn't just talking about travel. He was talking about change, about the weight of being Taehyung, the artist, the icon, the person behind the image the world so desperately tries to define. And in that fragile confession, fans felt the unspoken truth of his journey. Because no matter how bright the lights get, there's always a shadow that follows. A quiet side of fame that only he seems to embrace with grace. But the most shocking part wasn't what he said. It was what he didn't. There was a long pause. Taehyung looked down, exhaled, and for a second, it seemed like the world stopped spinning. Was that a tear? Was it exhaustion? Or was it simply the moment catching up to him? "It's been a lot lately," he finally murmured. "But I'm thankful, really thankful." He didn't need to say more. The fans watching felt it like a wave crashing over them. The honesty, the vulnerability, the raw humanity that only Taehyung can show in the quietest of ways. In that moment, it wasn't about fame, designer clothes, or the next global campaign. It was about home, about being human, about the boy who once dreamed in Taegu, now standing at the airport with the world watching. Still humble, still kind, still Taehyung. The live continued with fleeting smiles and small talk. He thanked fans for waiting, laughed at comments, and even teased a bit about upcoming projects. "Maybe I'll sing again soon," he said with a smirk that sent the chat into chaos. "But not yet. Let's just breathe together for now." The words "breathe together" became a trending phrase within minutes. On X, fans started tagging #TaehyungLive and #WelcomeHomeV with emotional notes. "He doesn't need to perform, just his presence heals. How can a few words feel like poetry? This man makes even silence go viral." And they were right, because Taehyung's live wasn't just an event. It was a mirror of emotion. Every flicker of his eyes, every pause, every shy laugh carried layers of stories untold. It felt less like a celebrity moment and more like a personal diary entry broadcast to millions who already felt like they knew his soul. Then came the twist that no one saw coming. Just as he was about to end the live, Taehyung looked directly into the camera and said softly, "Promise me you'll take care of yourself too, okay?" It was simple, but the way he said it, gentle yet pleading, made hearts crumble. Fans typed frantically through their tears, "We promise. You too, Tae. Please rest." But he wasn't done. He added one more line that sent shivers through everyone watching. "Sometimes the best goodbyes are the quiet ones." And with that, the screen went black. The live ended abruptly. No goodbye wave, no smile, just silence. The internet exploded within seconds. Speculation ran wild. Was he okay? Was it emotional exhaustion? Or was he preparing for something new, something bigger? Some fans theorized it was a quiet hint about his next solo project, while others believed it reflected a deeper emotional truth about his journey as an artist navigating between worlds. The glamorous and the lonely, the public and the personal. Airport photos surfaced minutes later. Taehyung walking through the terminal, surrounded by flashes of cameras but still carrying that unmistakable stillness. He greeted the staff politely, nodded at fans, and waved briefly before stepping into a black car waiting outside. And just like that, he was gone. But the echo of that live stayed. It wasn't about the visuals anymore. It was about the feeling he left behind. Something raw, intimate, and unforgettable. By the time he landed in Seoul, the hashtags had dominated global trends. Even media outlets that rarely covered idols beyond headlines took notice. Taehyung's emotional return live captivates the world. One headline read, "A moment of vulnerability that redefined stardom," said another. Fans described it as one of the most human moments in modern pop culture. A superstar choosing honesty over perfection. And perhaps that's what made it so magnetic. In a world obsessed with filters, Taehyung gave the world something real. Days later, fans were still dissecting every frame of that live. The slight tremble in his voice, the softness in his eyes, the way he seemed both tired and at peace. He looked like he'd been carrying something heavy, one fan commented. But he also looked like he finally let it go. Others noticed the subtle smile he gave before ending the stream, suggesting hope. A quiet promise that he would return stronger, happier. It's strange how one live at an airport could feel like a cinematic moment. But that's the Taehyung effect. He turns simplicity into poetry. The mere act of standing at an airport becomes a metaphor for transition, for endings and beginnings. Every gesture feels intentional, even if it's just him fixing his jacket or adjusting his cap. And maybe that's why millions watched, not because they expected drama, but because they sought connection. Do you feel it too? One fan wrote under a compilation video of the live that hit 2 million views overnight, "It's like he's talking to us even when he's quiet." Another replied, "That's Taehyung. He doesn't need to shout to be heard." The comments section became a safe space for shared emotion. People thanking him for reminding them that vulnerability isn't weakness, that being lost sometimes is part of finding yourself again. Some fans even began editing clips of his live into emotional short films set to his songs like "Love Me Again" and "Rainy Days," creating montages that blended his past performances with this intimate airport moment. The result? A narrative that felt almost cinematic. A visual love letter to the artist who continues to redefine what it means to be present, human, and loved. And somewhere in Seoul, perhaps as the night fell quietly outside his window, Taehyung might have smiled seeing those clips, knowing that even without trying, he had created yet another ripple across the world. His airport live wasn't planned as a spectacle. It was a glimpse, a fleeting, beautiful truth about what it means to go home not just physically, but emotionally.